behind the walls of the royal house, that aides tried to downplay and courtiers quickly silenced. But the look on Princess Eleanor's face as she emerged from that private meeting said everything the palace refused to say publicly. Something had changed. What first appeared to be an ordinary day inside the monarchy soon became the center of growing concern, whispered speculation, and mounting uncertainty. The atmosphere surrounding the royal family seemed heavier than usual, as though everyone had suddenly become aware of a burden they could neither explain nor escape. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The first sign that something serious was unfolding came when the palace released a brief and carefully worded statement. It contained very little information, yet somehow managed to create even more questions than answers. The wording was precise, measured, and deliberately restrained, but that restraint only fueled public curiosity. Royal watchers immediately noticed that key details were missing. There were no timelines, no reassurances, and no clear explanation for the sudden shift that appeared to be taking place behind closed doors. The announcement was short, but its impact was enormous. Within hours, scheduled appearances involving several senior members of the royal family were quietly withdrawn from public calendars. Events that had been planned weeks in advance suddenly disappeared. Official explanations remained vague while palace representatives repeated the same carefully constructed message. Yet the unusual sequence of cancellations quickly became impossible to ignore. The monarchy had weathered countless storms over the years, but moments like this often carried a deeper significance. The silence itself seemed to be telling a story. At the center of the growing concern was Princess Eleanor. Reports suggested she had attended a series of private consultations with trusted medical specialists. While no official details emerged, the secrecy surrounding those meetings only intensified speculation. The palace appeared determined to protect her privacy, but the effort to maintain discretion created an atmosphere of mystery that spread far beyond royal circles. Every unanswered question seemed to generate three more. As concern grew, communication inside the institution became increasingly restricted. Staff members who normally handled public inquiries suddenly found themselves unable to provide even the most routine responses. Those familiar with palace operations described an environment of extraordinary caution. Conversations became shorter, access became tighter, information became harder to obtain. The closer anyone seemed to get to the truth, the more firmly the doors appeared to close. Royal correspondents who had spent years covering the monarchy began noting unusual patterns. Small details that once seemed insignificant started to take on new meaning. Decisions that had passed unnoticed suddenly appeared connected. Some believed the palace was simply trying to prevent unnecessary panic. Others suspected there was a larger story waiting beneath the surface. Whatever the explanation, one thing became increasingly clear. Concern was spreading faster than reassurance. Soon, the public began demanding answers. Supporters of the monarchy expressed worry, while critics questioned the palace's strategy of silence. Across the nation, conversations turned toward the same subject. People wanted clarity. They wanted certainty. Most of all, they wanted to know whether the institution they had followed for generations was confronting a challenge far greater than anyone had imagined. And as the pressure continued to build, the palace found itself facing a difficult reality. The questions were no longer confined to private corridors or royal residences. They had become impossible to contain. But the palace announcement was only the beginning, because insiders were already pointing to troubling signs that had appeared weeks earlier. Long before the palace spoke publicly, there were moments that suddenly seemed impossible to ignore. Brief appearances, unexpected absences, carefully managed photographs. At the time, they looked insignificant. Now they appear to be pieces of a much larger and far more troubling puzzle. In hindsight, the clues seem to be everywhere, not dramatic enough to spark immediate alarm, yet unusual enough to leave a lingering sense of unease. For months, Princess Eleanor had been one of the most visible members of the royal household. Her schedule was known for its consistency, her dedication rarely questioned. That was why the subtle changes attracted attention. One engagement disappeared from the calendar, then another. Public explanations were offered, but they often felt incomplete. Nothing appeared extraordinary when viewed in isolation. Together, however, the pattern was becoming difficult to dismiss. Royal observers who followed every movement of the monarchy began comparing notes. They noticed that appearances once considered routine were becoming increasingly selective. Events that traditionally held great significance for the institution suddenly proceeded without Eleanor's presence. At first, Most assumed there was a practical explanation. Yet the longer the adjustments continued, the more persistent the questions became. The palace remained calm on the surface, but beneath that carefully maintained composure, speculation was beginning to spread. What made the situation even more intriguing was the extraordinary level of privacy surrounding the royal family's daily activities. The monarchy had always protected certain aspects of family life, but this felt different. Information that would normally circulate quietly through trusted channels appeared to stop altogether. Even experienced correspondents found themselves encountering unusual barriers. Details that were once easy to verify became impossible to confirm. The silence was not merely noticeable, it was deliberate. As weeks passed, subtle alterations in palace planning became increasingly apparent. Long-established routines seemed to shift without explanation. Decisions were made at the last moment. Arrangements changed unexpectedly. Officials continued to project confidence, but those who closely monitored royal affairs sensed growing tension beneath the surface. Some believed the institution was attempting to protect a private family matter. Suspected preparations were being made for a development far more significant than anyone publicly acknowledged. Behind closed doors, theories multiplied. Conversations that began as casual observations evolved into serious discussions among royal insiders. Every new adjustment seemed to create another layer of mystery. Every unanswered question appeared to strengthen the belief that something important was unfolding beyond public view. The absence of reliable information created a vacuum, and that vacuum quickly filled with speculation. The palace's determination to maintain control of the narrative only intensified public curiosity. Meanwhile, attention increasingly turned toward Prince Alexander. While official statements remained limited, he noticed that he appeared to be carrying a heavier burden than before. Responsibilities that had traditionally been shared seemed to fall more heavily upon his shoulders. Additional meetings appeared on his schedule. New obligations emerged. The future king maintained his sense of duty, but observers could not ignore the possibility that his expanding role reflected deeper concerns within the family. With every passing day, uncertainty grew. Supporters searched for reassurance. Critics demanded transparency. Commentators debated whether the public was witnessing a temporary challenge or the beginning of a much larger royal crisis. The lack of clear answers only magnified the tension. What had started as a series of isolated observations was evolving into a question that hung over the entire institution. And as the mystery deepened, one possibility became increasingly difficult to ignore. Perhaps the public still did not understand the true scale of what was happening behind palace walls. As concern intensified, attention shifted toward the people closest to Catherine and what they were doing behind the scenes. While the world searched for answers, Prince William appeared determined to carry the weight alone. Behind the composed public image was a husband facing uncertainty, responsibility, and a challenge no future king ever hopes to confront. As public concern continued to grow, attention naturally turned toward the man standing closest to the center of the storm. Prince William had spent years preparing for the responsibilities that came with his future role, but nothing could have prepared him for a period like this. The demands arriving from every direction seemed relentless. There were official duties that could not be ignored, family responsibilities that required constant attention, and an increasingly anxious public searching for signs that everything would somehow be all right. Through it all, William maintained the calm and disciplined image expected of him, yet those who followed the royal household closely sensed that the burden he carried was becoming heavier with each passing day. His schedule reflected that reality. Engagements that once involved multiple senior royals increasingly appeared to rest on his shoulders. Meetings multiplied. Commitments expanded. New responsibilities quietly emerged. While official statements continued to emphasize stability, the growing volume of work surrounding the prince suggested that extraordinary efforts were taking place behind the scenes. The monarchy was determined to project continuity, but continuity often comes at a cost, and many believed William was paying that price personally. At the same time, there was another responsibility that mattered far more than public appearances or ceremonial obligations. Behind the formal duties stood 3 young children whose lives had suddenly become surrounded by uncertainty. Reports from those familiar with the family suggested that William's primary focus remained George, Charlotte, and Louis. Protecting them from the growing speculation became a mission in itself. The children found themselves at the center of conversations they could not fully understand, while headlines and rumors continued to multiply around them. William reportedly worked tirelessly to preserve a sense of normality, creating stability wherever he could, even as events beyond his control threatened to disrupt it. Yet maintaining that balance proved increasingly difficult. Private meetings with trusted advisors became more frequent. Discussions that once focused primarily on long-term planning began addressing immediate concerns. Decisions had to be made. Strategies had to be developed. Every choice carried consequences not only for the institution but also for the family itself. The challenge was no longer simply managing public expectations. It was navigating a deeply personal crisis while remaining one of the most recognizable figures in the world. Those pressures inevitably began affecting the wider family. Though palace officials remained cautious in their public remarks, persistent reports pointed to emotional strain within the household. The uncertainty that surrounded Princess Eleanor did not exist in isolation. It touched every member of the family in different ways. Relationships were tested. Emotions ran deeper than anyone publicly acknowledged. Behind every carefully measured statement stood real people confronting fears they could neither predict nor fully control. Meanwhile, public speculation showed no signs of slowing. In fact, the lack of concrete information appeared to intensify the scrutiny. Every appearance was analyzed. Every statement was examined. Every absence generated fresh theories. The prince found himself trapped between two competing obligations: protecting the privacy of those he loved while also satisfying the expectations of a public desperate for answers. It was an impossible position. Reveal too much and risk exposing deeply personal struggles. Reveal too little and invite even greater speculation. As weeks passed, that tension became one of the defining challenges of his life. The future heir to the throne was confronting circumstances that tested not only his leadership but also his resilience as a husband and father. The weight of duty demanded strength. The reality of family demanded compassion. Somehow he was expected to embody both. Yet beneath the surface of determination and discipline, questions continued to linger. If the pressure was already this immense, what would happen if the situation became even more serious? And as concern continued spreading beyond the palace walls, it became increasingly clear that this was no longer a challenge facing one family alone. Yet even William's efforts could not prevent growing anxiety from spreading throughout the wider royal household. Inside the royal household, uncertainty quickly turned into apprehension. Staff members who rarely show emotion reportedly found themselves confronting questions they could not answer, while long-standing routines suddenly began to change. What had once felt like a private challenge confined to a small circle was now beginning to affect the entire institution. The atmosphere inside the palace had shifted in subtle but unmistakable ways. Those who spent years working within the structure of the monarchy were accustomed to pressure. They had navigated political transitions, public controversies, and unexpected crises. Yet this situation felt different. There was no clear roadmap, no predictable timeline, and no simple reassurance that could calm growing fears. Every day seemed to bring new uncertainty, and with uncertainty came apprehension. As concerns surrounding Princess Eleanor continued to deepen, senior aides reportedly moved into what many described as crisis management mode. Meetings became more frequent. Discussions stretched longer. Decisions that would normally take days were being addressed within hours. Behind closed doors, officials worked tirelessly to balance competing priorities. They needed to protect the family. They needed to maintain stability. And perhaps most difficult of all, they needed to preserve public confidence while confronting questions that even they might not have been fully prepared to answer. The strain soon began affecting the palace's daily rhythm. Royal schedules underwent a series of quiet but significant adjustments. Engagements were reviewed with greater scrutiny. Appearances were carefully evaluated. Certain commitments moved forward, while others disappeared altogether. To the public, these changes appeared small. To those familiar with royal operations, however, they represented something far more significant. The monarchy was adapting to circumstances that remained hidden from view, and every adjustment hinted at the seriousness of the challenge unfolding behind the scenes. At the same time, security and privacy measures reportedly became more robust than ever before. Access to information tightened. Communication channels narrowed. Individuals who normally operated with relative freedom suddenly found themselves navigating stricter protocols. The palace was clearly attempting to protect something, though precisely what remained the subject of endless speculation. Each new safeguard seemed designed to prevent details from escaping into public discussion. Yet paradoxically, every effort to reinforce secrecy only fueled greater curiosity beyond palace walls. Meanwhile, members of the royal family remained unusually quiet. Their silence became a story of its own. Supporters searched for reassurance in public statements and appearances, but meaningful updates remained scarce. Even those who traditionally offered glimpses into royal life appeared reluctant to speak. The absence of information created a void, and that void quickly became filled with rumors, theories, and growing concern. Questions multiplied faster than answers. Every day without clarity seemed to intensify the uncertainty. Public appearances became increasingly rare. When members of the family did step into the public eye, attention focused less on their duties and more on what might be happening behind closed doors. Observers examined every word, every gesture, every detail in search of clues. The monarchy remained determined to project stability, but stability was becoming harder to maintain as speculation spread beyond national borders. Soon, concern was no longer confined to the kingdom itself. International audiences began following developments with growing interest. Media organizations around the world dedicated increasing attention to the unfolding mystery. Commentators debated possible explanations. Analysts discussed potential consequences. Across continents, people found themselves drawn into a story defined by uncertainty, silence, and unanswered questions. What had begun as a private matter was evolving into an international conversation. And yet, despite all the efforts to manage information, control narratives, and maintain order, an uncomfortable reality continued to linger beneath the surface. The palace could limit access, it could tighten procedures, it could carefully shape public messaging, but it could not stop people from remembering. Because, as anxiety continued to spread, many began looking backward rather than forward. They started recalling other difficult chapters in royal history, other moments when uncertainty gripped the institution, and other periods when private struggles unexpectedly became matters of public concern. But as the palace worked to contain the situation, memories of previous royal health crises began resurfacing. The monarchy had faced moments of uncertainty before, but each crisis left its own scars. As Princess Eleanor's situation unfolded, many were reminded of earlier chapters when the future of the institution suddenly felt fragile. History has always cast a long shadow over the crown. Every generation of the monarchy carries stories of triumph, sacrifice, and periods when stability seemed far less certain than it appeared on the surface. That is why the growing concern surrounding Princess Eleanor resonated so deeply. For many observers, the situation did not feel like an isolated event. Instead, it awakened memories of earlier moments when unexpected challenges tested the endurance of the institution itself. The names and circumstances may have changed, but the emotions felt remarkably familiar. Supporters of the crown began looking back at previous periods of royal uncertainty, recalling how quickly confidence could be shaken when unanswered questions dominated public conversation. In every era, there had been moments when concern replaced celebration, when hope battled fear, and when the future seemed less predictable than anyone wished to admit. Those memories returned with surprising force. The public had witnessed difficult chapters before, and that collective memory made the current situation feel even more significant. Yet history also offered another lesson. Again and again, the monarchy had demonstrated a remarkable ability to endure. Storms that once appeared overwhelming eventually became part of a larger story of resilience. Challenges that threatened stability often revealed unexpected strength. That legacy of perseverance became an important source of reassurance for many supporters. If the institution had survived previous periods of uncertainty, perhaps it could overcome this one as well. But even those who believed in the monarchy's resilience acknowledged that every crisis leaves its mark. Recovery may be possible, but it is never without cost. What made this situation particularly emotional was Princess Eleanor's growing importance within the royal family. Over the years, she had become more than a public figure. She had evolved into a symbol of continuity, dedication, and modern leadership. Many viewed her as a bridge between tradition and the future. Her presence brought a sense of confidence to the institution, particularly during periods of transition and change. That was why concerns surrounding her circumstances extended far beyond ordinary curiosity. People felt personally invested in her well-being because they believed she represented something larger than herself. As discussions intensified, commentators increasingly focused on the unique role Eleanor occupied within the monarchy. Her influence could not be measured solely through official duties or public engagements. It stemmed from trust. Trust built over years of commitment. Trust earned through consistency. Trust reinforced whenever the institution needed a steady and reassuring presence. That connection had become one of the crown's greatest strengths, and many now feared what prolonged uncertainty could mean for both the family and the institution she helped support. The emotional response from the public reflected that bond. Messages of encouragement appeared from every corner of the nation. People who rarely followed royal affairs found themselves paying attention. Longtime supporters spoke openly about their concern. Even those who usually remained skeptical acknowledged the significance of the moment. The story was no longer driven solely by mystery. It was being shaped by genuine affection and growing emotional investment. With each passing day, the relationship between Princess Eleanor and the public became more visible. What had begun as concern was evolving into something much deeper. People were not simply seeking answers anymore. They were hoping for reassurance. They were hoping for strength. Most of all, they were hoping for a positive outcome to a story that had become unexpectedly personal. And as that emotional connection continued to deepen, it created a powerful force that even the palace could not have anticipated. And it was that deep connection with the public that transformed concern into an overwhelming wave of support. What happened next surprised even seasoned palace officials. Messages began arriving from across the kingdom and around the world, creating a powerful reminder of just how deeply Princess Eleanor had become woven into the public's heart. For weeks, uncertainty had dominated the conversation. Questions overshadowed answers. Concerns spread faster than facts. Yet amid that atmosphere of tension, something remarkable began to emerge. The public response evolved beyond curiosity and transformed into something far more powerful. People who had never met Princess Eleanor felt compelled to express support. Families shared messages of encouragement. Communities organized gatherings dedicated not to speculation, but to hope. What began as a period of anxiety gradually revealed the extraordinary bond that had formed between the princess and those who had followed her journey for years. The sheer scale of the response caught many observers by surprise. Letters arrived in extraordinary numbers. Messages appeared across social platforms, community forums, and public events. People from different backgrounds, generations, and regions found themselves united by a common sentiment. They wanted Princess Eleanor and her family to know they were not facing uncertainty alone. The palace had spent weeks attempting to manage concern, yet no strategy could have predicted the emotional wave that was now building outside its walls. Soon that wave extended far beyond national borders. International audiences who had followed the royal family from afar began contributing their own messages of support. Newspapers, broadcasters, and commentators across multiple countries dedicated increasing attention to the story. While opinions often differed on royal matters, there was a surprising degree of agreement regarding Eleanor herself. Many viewed her as a symbol of dignity, commitment, and resilience. In a world increasingly divided by competing viewpoints, support for the princess became one of the few things capable of bringing people together. Communities responded in their own unique ways. Gatherings were organized. Public spaces became places of reflection and encouragement. Local organizations dedicated time and resources to expressing solidarity with the royal family. What made these gestures meaningful was not their size but their sincerity. People were acting not because they had been instructed to do so, but because they genuinely cared about the individual at the center of the story. That emotional investment transformed a royal narrative into something deeply human. As support continued to grow, media coverage intensified. Journalists who had previously focused on unanswered questions now found themselves documenting the remarkable response unfolding across the country. Stories of encouragement began sharing space with stories of uncertainty. Analysts discussed not only the challenges facing the monarchy, but also the extraordinary affection being displayed toward one of its most respected figures. The narrative was changing. Concern remained, but it was increasingly accompanied by compassion. Charities and organizations that had worked alongside Princess Eleanor throughout the years also began expressing support. Their statements carried particular weight because they reflected relationships built through years of service and collaboration. Many highlighted her commitment to causes she had championed long before the current crisis emerged. They spoke about dedication, empathy, and determination. In doing so, they reminded the public why Eleanor had earned such widespread respect in the first place. That respect was not the result of a single moment. It had been built gradually through years of consistency, effort, and public service. The current outpouring of support reflected the lasting impact she had made on countless individuals. For many people, Princess Eleanor represented stability during uncertain times. She represented grace under pressure. She represented a future they believed in. That was why the emotional response felt so personal. Supporters were not merely reacting to headlines. They were responding to someone they felt connected to. Yet, even as messages of encouragement continued arriving from every corner of the world, an uncomfortable reality remained impossible to ignore. Hope was growing, compassion was growing, support was growing, but so was anticipation. Because beneath every heartfelt tribute, every expression of solidarity, and every public display of affection lingered the same question that had existed from the beginning. A question no amount of support could fully answer. But behind every public message of encouragement remained one unanswered question that refused to disappear. Despite the palace's statement, one question continued to dominate headlines, conversations, and royal discussions. What happens next? And how will this development affect both Princess Eleanor and the future direction of the monarchy? As the weeks passed, that question became impossible to escape. It appeared in newspaper columns, public discussions, and private conversations alike. Every update generated fresh analysis. Every period of silence encouraged new theories. Yet despite the constant attention, one crucial detail remained uncertain. No one knew what the road ahead would look like. The lack of a clear timeline transformed an already emotional situation into something even more complicated. Supporters desperately wanted certainty, but certainty remained frustratingly out of reach. The challenge facing the palace was not simply managing public concern. It was navigating a future that remained largely undefined. Royal schedules are typically planned months in advance, sometimes even longer. Major events require coordination, preparation, and long-term commitment. Yet the circumstances surrounding Princess Eleanor created a level of unpredictability that complicated every aspect of that process. Decisions that once seemed straightforward suddenly required careful reconsideration. Plans remained in place, but they were increasingly accompanied by contingency strategies and alternative arrangements. Questions surrounding future public engagements became especially difficult to answer. Supporters hoped to see Eleanor return to her duties, believing her presence would provide reassurance to both the monarchy and the nation. At the same time, many recognized that expectations could become a burden of their own. The desire for normality was understandable, but reality rarely follows public expectations. The palace found itself caught between optimism and caution, determined not to create promises that circumstances might later make impossible to fulfill. As attention focused on Eleanor's future, another important shift was taking place within the institution itself. Prince William's role continued to evolve. Responsibilities that had gradually increased over the years now appeared to be accelerating. His position as the future monarch had always carried immense weight, but recent events seemed to place even greater demands upon him. Every decision, every appearance, and every statement attracted heightened scrutiny. Observers began discussing not only how he was handling the current challenge, but also what these experiences might mean for the future shape of the monarchy itself. That discussion inevitably fueled additional speculation. Some believed the institution was entering a period of transformation. Others argued that the crown was simply adapting to temporary circumstances. The truth remained unclear, but one fact was undeniable. Uncertainty had become a defining feature of the moment. The public wanted answers about Eleanor's future. Analysts wanted answers about the monarchy's future. Yet neither question appeared likely to receive immediate resolution. Behind the scenes, palace officials faced a delicate balancing act. Privacy remained essential. Certain matters belonged to the family alone. Yet transparency was also important. The institution understood that prolonged silence risked undermining public confidence. Every statement, therefore, became a careful exercise in balance. Share too much, and private boundaries could be compromised. Share too little, and speculation would continue filling the void. Finding the right approach proved increasingly challenging as public anticipation intensified. Meanwhile, supporters remained focused on one possibility above all others: the prospect of Princess Eleanor's eventual return. For many, that hope became a source of comfort during an otherwise uncertain period. Discussions about future appearances, future projects, and future milestones reflected a desire to look beyond the current crisis. Yet hope itself carried a degree of tension. The more people anticipated a return, the greater the pressure surrounding whatever came next. By this stage, anticipation had become almost as powerful as concern. Every update attracted extraordinary attention. Every official communication generated intense discussion. The story had evolved far beyond the original announcement. It had become a defining chapter in the monarchy's ongoing narrative, one that seemed destined to shape public perceptions for years to come. And as expectations continued to build, preparations quietly intensified behind palace walls, signaling that the institution understood the significance of the moment that lay ahead. As speculation continued, the palace prepared for what may become one of the most important periods in Princess Eleanor's royal journey. For now, the answers remain incomplete. The palace statement may have confirmed a troubling development, but it has also revealed something else: the remarkable strength of a woman whose influence extends far beyond palace walls. As this extraordinary chapter continues to unfold, one truth has emerged with undeniable clarity. The story is no longer defined solely by uncertainty. It is also defined by resilience. Throughout the weeks of speculation, concern, and unanswered questions, Princess Eleanor has remained at the center of a narrative that has tested not only a family, but an entire institution. Yet despite the pressure surrounding her circumstances, the image that continues to resonate with supporters is not one of weakness. It is one of determination. The challenges may be significant, but so too is the strength that has carried her through every previous obstacle she has faced. That resilience helps explain why the public response has been so profound. People are not simply invested in a royal figure. They are invested in a person whose years of service, commitment, and consistency have earned genuine respect. In moments of uncertainty, character becomes more visible than ever. And for many supporters, this period has only reinforced the qualities they have long admired. The mystery surrounding recent events may have created concern, but it has also highlighted the remarkable impact Princess Eleanor has had on countless lives. At the same time, the royal family's determination to move forward has become increasingly apparent. While challenges continue to emerge, there has been a quiet refusal to surrender to fear. Every institution eventually faces moments that test its foundations. Every family encounters circumstances it never expected. The measure of strength is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to endure it. That lesson appears to be guiding the monarchy through one of its most emotionally complex periods in recent memory. Much of that determination has been reflected through Prince William's unwavering support. Throughout the uncertainty, he has remained focused on balancing responsibility with compassion. The demands placed upon him have been immense. Public expectations continue to grow. Royal obligations continue to expand. Yet beneath those responsibilities remains a simple commitment: standing beside the people who matter most. In many ways, his response has become a powerful reminder that behind every royal title stands a family, confronting challenges that are deeply human. The monarchy itself now finds itself at a defining moment. Institutions are often judged not during periods of stability, but during periods of adversity. The coming months may shape public perceptions for years to come. Questions remain unanswered. Outcomes remain uncertain. Yet even amid uncertainty, there is a growing sense that the values often associated with the crown, duty, perseverance, and resilience, are being tested in real time. Supporters continue hoping for encouraging news. That hope has become one of the most powerful forces surrounding this story. It appears in every message of support, every expression of solidarity, and every conversation focused on the future rather than the past. People want reasons to believe. They want signs that difficult chapters can eventually lead to brighter ones. Whether those hopes are fulfilled remains unknown, but the optimism itself speaks volumes about the connection Princess Eleanor has built with the public. Perhaps that is why this story continues to captivate audiences around the world. On the surface, it is about a royal family navigating uncertainty. Beneath the surface, however, it is about something far more universal. It is about courage when answers are scarce. It is about perseverance when circumstances are difficult. It is about maintaining hope when the future remains unwritten. Those themes resonate far beyond the walls of any palace. For now, the questions remain. The speculation remains. The anticipation remains. Yet so does the determination of a family moving forward one step at a time, supported by millions who continue to hope for the best. The next chapter has not yet been written, and perhaps that is why the world remains so invested in what comes next. And until the palace speaks again, the world will continue watching, hoping, and waiting for the next chapter in Princess Eleanor's story. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.